Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies, to another episode of RSF Radio. I'm your host, Joe Monday, and this is the podcast where we talk about what's been going on in the FGC, more leaning towards Street Fighter, but not always. But in the Street Fighter world, things are shaking up. Once again, not by Altamore, this time by fluffysheap. Welcome to the show.
Hello, glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you on, and it was one of those things where as soon as I saw that patch drop, kind of at the same time, your head dropped onto some ice, resulting in kind of like a concussion.
Yes.
Like day and date of patch. So me like wanting to get out there and just talk to the person who made it. You were like, I need to lie down. I'm just going to fall asleep. And I was like, no, don't do that. don't fall asleep. But you're in better health now. It should seem, hopefully.
Yeah, they say that actually the whole like don't fall asleep, that's not part of the protocol anymore. They just want to make sure that you don't have any other symptoms, and nobody can ask you about your symptoms if you're asleep. So
okay. I always thought it was like you'll go into a coma. That was the wives' tale I was told.
Yeah, I don't think that's true anymore. Now it's, for the first hour or so they don't want you to do that in case you develop something. But after that, it's just have a good night's sleep, get lots of rest. So, but it's about a 10-day recovery period, and I'm about 4 days in. So I'm still not able. So this should
be a very fun, lucid podcast.
Yeah, it will be. Of course, you can't tell because I'm like this all the time, but I'm still not able to actually play the game. It's kind of unfortunate. I haven't played the game since the patch
even used
was released.
Your own patch.
That's right.
Oh dear. Well, speaking of the patch, though, before we get into all the details and the how it works and what is it even, and who is involved and who is to blame for this, I want to kind of give you an opportunity here to pitch anything that you have, anything you might have going on here that you might want to pitch at the front of the show. Any social media you want to throw out here is all well and good, or just anything in general that you want to toss people over to.
I'm not really big on social media. I only really go on Reddit, and usually only kind of the specialized or technical subreddits normally. I don't really use Twitter or Facebook, but as far as what I have going on, not a lot. My project that I was working on for the past several years kind of got shut down, so I'm a little bit at loose ends, but thinking of going out and looking for just a regular 9-to-5 job. But I also have the option of making a retro gaming. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the open source scan converter, but I have an idea for something that's similar to that, but with a wider variety of compatibility and with 4K support. So that's kind of my next project. But that's still very much in the nascent phases, and it's not ready for sale. But it'll be on Kickstarter when I do it.
Damn. Okay. So jumping from project to project, kind of unfortunate to hear about the one that got put in the dunker, I suppose.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a thing I was working on that basically I don't know if anybody has used like the Chipotle loyalty program, but it was very similar to that, except it would be usable at a wider variety of merchants. But I don't think we're going to be able to complete that, unfortunately.
I see. Well, I won't dig into that much. I imagine there's some legality binding you behind some NDAs or some shit like that. But other than that, cool. I want to give a big thank you from the community for putting work into the game and kind of building upon what has or what exists now. But I think let's get the basics out of the way first. So if anyone hasn't ever heard of you or what you do, like who are you? What's your FGC cred? How can I trust you?
Yeah, well, it's likely that no one has heard of me because I am not going to be winning EVO anytime soon. But
that's the majority of people who attend EVO.
That's true. But I'm not a particularly noteworthy player. I'm not as bad as my rank makes me look. I know some people are like, what, this guy's just bronze, but I'm not really bronze.
Coming from a rookie, I know.
But I'm not very good. But I do hang out. Uh-oh, did I get disconnected?
Nope.
Okay. Sorry,
No,
my
I got you.
screensaver kicked in, and I thought I might have gotten. See, we're gonna have to fix this in post.
Yeah, gonna have to. Yeah, I'll definitely have to fix that in post.
Okay.
This is definitely gonna get edited out. For sure.
Let's go back and do that over.
No. Okay.
You so, ask me that one again.
No, but you're playing the game though, right?
Yeah. I'm not really a fighting game player primarily. I'm really more of a first-person shooter player. That's really where most of my skill is. But I've always enjoyed fighting games. I played, obviously I played Street Fighter V. I didn't play a lot of 4. I did play Alpha 3, where I played Mika as well. Of course, played the original Street Fighter 2. But for the most part, where I've really been good is in first-person shooters, especially the original Quake. I was pretty good at original Quake and Star Siege Tribes. That was the other one. I'm old. A
lot of Rocket Arena under your belt, I suppose.
Actually, I don't play that much Rocket Arena. You'd think I would, okay. And I always meant to, but no, I think just over the past few years, Street Fighter V is kind of the game that's brought me back into gaming, because I was really just not playing a lot recently until this. So yeah, I'm old, I'm super casual, but that's at least at this point in my life I am.
Any other like first-person shooters that you're into right now?
Not right now. I think the last one that I played with any amount of seriousness was Team Fortress 2. I did play Overwatch for a while. I definitely prefer the sci-fi style, but Blizzard has kind of made themselves unwelcome, and I'm not happy with the changes they've made to the queuing, because as someone who's just a casual and plays a variety of characters, and now I have to queue and say, well, I want to play defense today, I guess I'll pick that, and hope I'm able to get the character I want to play, and then I don't, and that's just not fun. But combine that with the politics, and I'm kind of phasing that game out.
Fair enough. I don't know a whole lot about Overwatch, but that seems to be the common thread among people who play it casually, is that they're kind of being, and granted, it's kind of an old game at this point. Like,
oh, sure.
In terms of first person, I don't know, even like the world that we live in, where games move pretty fast on and off the shelves, that one's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Regardless, not here to talk about FPSs or your CSGOs or your TF2s, all that bullshit. Here to talk about Street Fighter V, because what you've done, here's the thing. I don't actually know what you've done. I know how the Ultimore patch works.
Okay.
But how does yours function in relation to that patch? Or does it work similarly, or is it based on this? Because he gave us the source code. Was it based on that? How did you make your patch?
Yeah, my patch is definitely based on Ultimore's source code. My patch absolutely would not exist without his. As I said in my Reddit post, reverse engineering is a specialized skill, and I don't specialize in it. So I probably couldn't have, or at least it would have been extremely difficult for me to make the patch without the work that he put in to open up the game and get access to that internal game state. But so as far as hooking into the game and all that, that's 100% his code. I didn't touch it. But in terms of what does it do to the actual netcode once it's running, then that's fairly different. That's pretty much starting from scratch.
What exactly does it touch though once you get into it?
Well, so that's
if you would explain it to a layman. I mean, I know this isn't like layman term. The stuff that you're probably going to have to get into isn't layman terms, but lay it on. Try me out.
I'll do my best. Okay, so Ultimore's patch and mine work very differently. So it's little known that the vanilla netcode in Street Fighter actually has a synchronization feature, and Capcom basically turned it off.
It has a synchronization feature that is totally fucked. That has actually been, there have been studies on that. People know about that, but like it hasn't been widespread, because that information of how it exactly works came out like years after it was relevant, I suppose.
Right. But so what mine does is basically you don't want to leave the synchronization on all of the time, because that gives the game something of an alien feel to it. So what mine does is it observes the game, kind of sees who's lagging, are you ahead, are you behind, and then it kind of keeps some statistics about the connection, because it doesn't want to go berserk. It doesn't want to kick in when it doesn't need to kick in. So it just monitors it. It looks to see if you might be on Wi-Fi and throws away the jitter that might be in the Wi-Fi. And then if it determines over a period of time that you're just lagged, then it goes ahead and it actually engages the built-in netcode correction feature that's actually been there all along, and the Capcom's just not using. And that's pretty much how it works. So whereas Altamore's works by kind of like if you're going to an appointment and you want to make sure that you're there on time, so to speak, then one way to do that is to just kind of set your clock ahead a few minutes to make sure that you leave early, right? Whereas mine is more like actually setting an alarm clock, so that you're not confused about what time it is. You're just a little bit more eager to leave on time, so you don't have to listen to that buzzing sound anymore. To put it in terms of an analogy, and it is, of course, just an analogy. Code is the code, but that's.
I think that makes sense, because what we know about the Street Fighter V netcode as it was that you mentioned something of it constantly checking to resync clocks, which was a huge issue when, let's say, at the end of a round, it would always check what the lag is, and if there was like a lag spike, then the following round would be, it would start out extremely laggy, because it would try to account for that lag spike and say that is normal, when in fact that's just an anomaly where you should throw that out because it's junk. Get rid of the jitter. You don't need to do it all the time. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the vanilla netcode is basically syncs up once at the end of each round, and if it gets it right, then you have a good connection, and if it gets it wrong, then you can be lagged. And mine monitors it throughout the round and observes to see if the lag is current. So if you have a lag spike, it'll adjust for that. If you get alt tabbed, actually, it'll kind of adjust for that as best as it can as well. So there's a lot of stuff that. Just keeping an eye on the connection full time allows it to work. But of course, we know the drawback, of course, is that it's not compatible with Altamore's mod.
Right. I think that. So now we have like crossed the Rubicon here, right? As I feel like once Altamore's patch came out, it was like, okay, Capcom, here's some pressure. Once this patch came out, which was made by you, and from what I know, help from a bunch of other people as well.
So I worked on it, obviously, and Shadow Devo, also known as Bulgarol Blurg. We have funny names, don't we? Also worked on it. We did most of it. I mean, I did all the coding. I'm not going to try and
repeat that name. That was just a jumble of.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Yeah, it is kind of a jumble. Bulgarol Blurg. But Shadow Devo. Let's go with Shadow Devo.
Got it.
He did. Well, like I said in my Reddit post, I think he worked on it as hard as I did, if not more so. Looking for testers, getting testing done, getting the word out. Just generally being an advocate and recruiting people to help. But as far as the code, it's just me.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I know that. Once this came out, though, to get back to the Rubicon arc here, is that this has sowed discourse within the community, all that has already been kind of split. For whatever reason, people were extremely mad about the Altamore mod of like, you've destroyed the community. I can't believe that you've released it this way. When really he's just a dude who really has no dog in the fight. Doesn't really matter to him. We had that conversation on that episode, however long ago that was. But point is, it really is only pressure to Capcom to fix the issue when it is proven that is a fixable issue. Now, with two mods out there, the pressure is like the heat has been turned up. But now, even within our own community, I saw people asking today of, well, which mod should I download? Can I get a link? Which is best? And I'm like, well, here are both of them. I would recommend this one because it works with everything.
Yeah.
But not with, it's not cross-compatible with the other one, and you gotta, it's a very long explanation for people for a community that is already very bad at reading.
Already. Yeah, reading. Well, we've all been punched in the head a few too many times. So, yeah.
Some more than others, it should seem.
Yeah, you know, and to a large degree, I'm actually kind of disappointed at that, because that was not my intention at all, and I really don't think that I've fragmented the community any more than it has been. Although I certainly do feel like I have given people more to think about and more of a choice to make. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But as far as fragmenting, I think, since mine is compatible with vanilla, it's compatible with crossplay, it's compatible with PlayStation. It's not really fragmenting, because hopefully all I'm fragmenting is the mod users. Some of the people who are using the Altimore mod previously can come over and use mine. That's really the reason why I produced this, because I know that was a thing you wanted to talk about as well. Is to try to bring the community back together, honestly. Because as we had it now, if you were on PC especially, you didn't really know what to do, because if you used the Altimore mod, you were going to be lag switching half of your opponents. And if you didn't use the mod, you were going to get lag switched by half of your opponents. And if you were on PlayStation, you would just turn crossplay off, and now everybody has a smaller matchmaking pool. So now instead of having one community, we ended up having three. And so that's the reason why I made this, was let's give everyone a path forward. Let's say, here's something that we can do where we will correct this problem, and we can all be happy in one unified game again, because that's important to me. Right.
And that's the ideal situation, which is why you made a mod that was compatible with everything.
Correct.
I tend to lean your side on this, because I think the people who are freaking out about different mods and being like, I don't know if I trust this, I'm just going to wait for I'm going to wait for this to blow over. I'm just going to go to the pub and wait for this one to blow over. It's like,
yeah, and that's totally a valid option. Although, unless you're afraid that I'm going to drop a virus onto your computer, which I'm not. That's why I published the source code.
Right.
I wouldn't trust it without the source code, and you can build it yourself from scratch. Look at the source code, see there's no virus in there, download Visual Studio, press F7 to build it, and just copy the file yourself. You can totally do that and be 100% sure. But I think enough people have used it. Arliath is one of my testers, and I think he's pretty well respected in the community as far as being, somebody who knows what he's doing. He's kind of given it his stamp of approval. So
even if he is a dirty fucking Makoto main, I do trust Arliath, that pink Makoto son of a bitch. I respect the guy enough if he's going to say that it's fine, because again, I don't really know how to read the source code, so I need to trust people who do, which is why I kind of go after people like yourself and like Arliath to say, we're good here. Things are on the up and up. So respect the decision to release the source code. I think that's ideal and good, which everyone can find in the Reddit post, which will be linked in the show notes. It's actually stickied on the front page of our Street Fighter currently as of this recording, so you can go check it out right now.
Okay.
So I guess then, because you wanted to bring the community together, what's your long view of this mod? What do you think the response, if a response, would be tenable from Capcom? Do you think that they have a what's the word I'm looking for? Is it necessary that they respond? Is it imperative?
I would like them to modify the game so that this particular type of mod is no longer possible.
Okay,
but only if they implement the fix themselves.
I think that is the other thing to think about here, where other people that I've seen talk about this mod and people who are in game development know that you can't really push big things like this out the door within 2 days. So that a person like yourself, a home dev, would do to just drop it whenever you have it completed. You can't really do that as a major publisher. And now they have the problem of not only making the netcode fixed as to like this new standard of how the netcode plays, but to also be sure to get rid of the mods that exist currently. They have to wipe the slate of what's out there and then implement what they have. Would that be difficult for them to do? Is that a
well, I can only give an educated guess because obviously I don't have access to the game source code and I don't understand Capcom's internal business practices.
Sure.
So I can only give an approximate. But I know that to release something on PlayStation, because they're going to have to if they want to release it to everybody. That's about a week, I think, getting it approved through Sony. It's not months and months and years, especially for an older game like this that Sony's probably not paying close attention to anymore. So that adds about a week to the process. But as far as making my changes, I think that they can't just copy and paste it because obviously the code is designed to plug into what Altimore did. It's not designed to work with Capcom source code, so they could look at it, and change. But I think it would probably be less than a day of development work for Capcom to adapt my changes and put them into the vanilla game. I think that's about how long it would take, and then I spent about a week testing it, right? So I think that would be a reasonable time frame as well, and so that's about 2 weeks start to finish. I think that's reasonable. I know Ono tweeted, "Our developers are hard at work." What that means, I don't know.
Who can say?
Maybe they're going to. I mean, Capcom could honestly do a better job than I did, to be completely honest with you. I don't necessarily want them to copy and paste my code, although they're welcome to. Of course, that's the whole idea behind the MIT license is do what you need with it. But they can do a better job than I did. Just because they have access to more of the internal game state. For example, my mod, when the connection is unsteady or when it needs to adjust, there's a little bit of a hiccup. While it kicks in, it engages that resync. There's a little bit of a hiccup, and Capcom could hide that. For instance, they could hide that in hit stop or in block stop, where nothing's moving on the screen except maybe a projectile, and nobody's ever going to notice that the game just resynced. Whereas mine doesn't have access to the game state to a degree where it can be intelligent that way. It only knows about how far into the round you are, and and how laggy you are. That's the only information it has. So Capcom could actually do a better job if they really tried.
Oh, okay. All right, so maybe that could explain what they're working on, or now that they firmly grasp the scenario, they can build it better.
They could. And of course, Capcom could also screw it up. It is Capcom.
They super could do that. That is another unexplored option. They could lock everybody out of these mods and also fuck it up themselves.
And I think most of what Capcom is going to end up doing is driven by the Altimore mod rather than by mine. I'm trying to provide a different way forward, one that doesn't lag switch your opponents if they don't have the mod.
This is more of a community-based mod of bringing back everyone to a level playing field. That's
the goal. But who knows what Capcom's going to do, right? They could look at Altimore's mod and they could say, this is bad for our PlayStation players. It's not acceptable, so we're just going to block it and everybody goes back to vanilla. That's one possibility. Or they could say, we recognize that there's really this demand in the community and we are going to devote some time and effort to making it better for you guys. And that's a possibility too. I think if hypothetically, if Altimore had written my code instead of his, as far as the actual changes to the netcode, you would see some of that demand from the PlayStation, but it would be from more of a positive perspective. It would be more like, hey, PC Master Race, they've got this lag fix. Why can't we have it? Whereas as it is now, it's much more driven from a place of pain and negativity, where they're saying, hey, this sucks for us, make it better. And that gives Capcom the excuse, if they want to just nuke us from orbit. And that's one of the reasons why I produced this patch. Is the longer it goes on with the community split the way it is, the more incentive Capcom has to just force everyone back to vanilla. And I didn't want that. I wanted to show, we can do better without hurting anyone.
Right. There's a better option for everybody here, and this seems to be an answer to it. Now, have you experienced or heard anybody say anything that hasn't functioned properly with the mod?
Yeah, I have. And that's disappointing. Of course, you never want to hear that somebody doesn't like your work. But and I'm definitely listening to that. If I hadn't gotten hurt, I probably would have produced a second version by now.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you had a little slip there. And
it's been strictly no programming. So unfortunately, I'm just not able to do. Excuse me, hiccup. So yeah, the next priority for me, well, there's two things that I've heard from people. Some is from people who they say they don't think it feels, it feels just like vanilla, or maybe it's not quite as good as vanilla. And I've heard that from streamers. I've watched people in stream saying, this just doesn't seem to be doing it for me. And others who have been saying, I prefer the feel of the Ultimor mod. That's not something that I'm going to be duplicating. But in terms of, does it work for me? Some people are saying no, that they don't like it. And a lot of that is driven by the incompatibility with Ultimor's version of the mod, for sure. So I think my priority is going to be making sure that my mod is no longer suffers if you end up matched up against somebody who's using Ultimor's version. And part of the reason that I didn't do that at the start was because first I wanted to get it out as soon as I can. I knew that it would work with vanilla, so I wanted to, once I was confident of that, I wanted to put it out there, get that feedback and get people hopefully having a good time with it. And so, and I have received notes of support. It's not all complaints. A lot of people are saying, yeah, this is just what I wanted. Yep. But that's definitely a pain point for people who get matched up against Ultimor mod users, which, it wasn't important to me, partly because I was hoping that people would move away from the Ultimor mod, because nobody should be using that mod in ranked, because obviously you're going to be matched up against unknown people who are not going to be using the mod. Even if you pick PC only, you're not going to be guaranteed to be matched against people that you're compatible with. So in my opinion, nobody should be using Ultimor's mod in ranked. If you like the feel of it, if you think it works for you, then use it in battle lounges against other people who like that mod too. I'm not going to judge you for that. That is absolutely your prerogative. But in ranked, you're lag switching enough people, and you're splitting that PS4 section of the community completely off. So you just shouldn't be using it there. Whereas mine, you can. So.
Yeah, you're causing issues with that. You don't have to. It's avoidable. So why even do that to yourself? Yeah. Why cause a bad situation? But with this mod, that isn't or shouldn't be an issue, which is good to hear. But I know I get it though, because again, you're only a couple people working on this mod, and getting it in the hands of people is, I don't know, I guess that's just the way to go. You're not going to be able to have the resources to check it against every single scenario to make sure that it works. But like I said, I don't want to put a date on this podcast and say it needs to be done in 5 days on my desk. But you're saying that you're wanting to make an update to this mod that will function with Ultimor's mod.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to give people an excuse to put it a certain way. I didn't want to condone using Ultimor's mod in ranked, because nobody should be doing that. Use it in Battle Lounge. But at the same time, if it's deterring people from switching because the connection is so bad when you run into that, I have people who are using Ultimor when they could be using mine, just because they don't want to be on the receiving end of that. That's not good either, and I do need to take care of those people. So I put it out there in the hopes that everyone would just switch. and it wouldn't be an issue anymore. But if it's continuing to be an issue, which it seems like it is, then improving that situation definitely is an important goal.
And if you guys want to get in touch with Fluffy Sheep, you can just head on over to that thread. It is currently stickied on the front page of our Street Fighter. You can just reply there. I'm sure you'll see it.
Yeah. And I definitely apologize for not being as active as I should. I mean, I was active the first day when I really should have just been in bed, making sure that everybody understood, here are the limitations, here's how to install it, and just being there. But after I wrote my follow-up post and said, here are the known issues that I know of. And after that, I haven't been there in a couple of days because I really do need to rest my brain. But
head injuries are no fucking joke. So
they're really not.
No shame in taking some time to be like, hey, I need to lie down.
And and I am sorry to everyone who's like, hey, he dropped this patch and now he's not here. It's just like when Altimore dropped his patch and then he disappeared. I know, and I'm really sorry. That's not what I wanted to do. It couldn't be helped. And I will be back as soon as I'm able, sometime this week, maybe as soon as tomorrow, responding to everyone, producing a new version of the patch, getting it tested, and getting it out there.
Awesome. Well, with that said, is there anything else about this patch that you want to put out there? Anything in general that you want to cover before we kind of close out the show?
Yeah, there is. And that has to do with people's expectations. Because if you look at the original README, going all the way back to Altimore's original README, he says, what will this patch do? It will if you get one-sided lag, it will move some of that lag onto the opponent, so the lag is balanced. And that's what Altimore's original patch claimed to do. Now we know that it did that in a way that didn't work with some versions of the game, but that's all it was intended to do. And it's the same with mine. All it does is it balances the lag. It's I did make some changes in there that are intended to smooth out things like the background characters. I don't know if that works. I don't think it makes things worse, but some people said, maybe I don't like the way that feels as much. But in terms of just improving your overall connection, if you have a good connection to someone already and it's fair and it's balanced, you're not going to see much of a difference with my mod. It's really just there to stop you from being on the receiving end of one-sided lag. I think with Altimore's mod, because it did tend to change the feel of the game a little bit, people are using that and they're saying, hey, this feels different. I can tell, hey, this is really doing something. This is stuff. Whereas mine, it just kind of feels like vanilla. And people try it and they're like, well, this doesn't feel any different. Is it even working? I don't know. And that's intentional. It's supposed to feel like vanilla. It's not supposed to feel like a whole new game. In fact, in my testing, I would find that, ideally, only one person should even have a change made by the mod, because if the one person's lagged and the other one's not, then it'll be even. And then the person who wasn't lagged, still not lagged, and they'll experience exactly the same game that they did with vanilla. And that's the way it's intended to work. So if you've tried it and found like, hey, this doesn't seem to be doing anything for me, it is. It's just doing it very subtly.
No, I see, though. It kind of makes CFN function the way that it was built to, instead of the way that they've kind of shoved a broomstick into their own spokes.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak.
Exactly.
A coding broomstick into their digital spokes, as it were.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
All right, cool. I think you've also touched upon something there that is kind of intrinsic to how Street Fighter V works, but the backgrounds do cause lag. They do, with the way that the netcode functions and the way that the game works. I mean, you can have lag spikes without even being online with the way that the backgrounds work.
Correct.
So there's something deeper going on there that I don't know if anyone has really. We know that that's happening. We've seen evidence of it. We've seen people test for it, but do we know how or why that's working? Again, we don't have the source code, so we just
not really. So there's a knob, so to speak, in there where you can set the frame that the game is trying to simulate the game to, because there's a certain time in terms of real time, wall clock time, right? And that's what kind of what the player is calibrated in. But then the game itself is running at a time that may or may not be in sync with that. And getting that out of sync is really what causes most of the perceptible lag in the game. And there's a variable in there that I set. And this is something that only happens in my mod. It doesn't happen in Altimore. But there's a variable that I set that attempts to keep that in sync. And I talked to Altimore a little bit afterward, and he said, I don't think what you're doing is actually going to help anything. I don't think it's going to do anything. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But it's possible that it's not helping. But I just put it in there to try, see, hey, maybe this will get better. It's possible that it's changing the feel in a way that people don't appreciate. So I may take it out. I know most people are still using the grid. I'm really kind of disappointed that everyone feels they have to use the grid, and I know that's a bummer.
as someone who runs online tournaments and will run one in about 5 to 10 minutes from now, I think people should automatically pick grid regardless. Honestly, don't even fucking risk it. What are we doing?
Yeah,
I get it. There's some beautiful stages in this game. There's some really nice stuff.
So anyway, my perspective on that currently, having looked at this, having reviewed the testing that Jimmy did, which was good testing, although I think there was a little bit of a flaw in his methodology. But anyway, as far as stage lag goes, I have observed it myself with frame counters on PC, saying, hey, look, I've got this frame drop, because my old PC it wasn't a potato. It was a nice PC, but it was old and it just wasn't keeping up. My current one is better, but I could see those frame drops, and so I know that frame drops are real. But I also believe that the game continues to simulate the inputs, so that it doesn't actually cause lag, but it does definitely look bad. Right. And my hope is that that doesn't have to continue. I don't know. I tried to tweak it a little bit. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But Capcom could fix that too.
Yeah, no, it's an alternative solution to a problem that we all run into that opens the door to everyone and not just the select few on PC. All right.
Correct.
Well, I think that about covers it.
Okay.
And I thank you for your time. And I wish you a speedy recovery from your injury. And before I let you go, though, I have to ask you a question. It's a question that I ask everyone when they show up on this show. First time, and I think that it can really tell a lot about a person's character and what matters to them by how they answer it. And it comes in 2 parts. First part of the question is, what is your favorite normal attack in any fighting game?
Yeah, so I would have to say probably Mika's crouching hard punch as it existed in Alpha.
Okay, why is that?
Because for a character, Mika was not a very strong character in Alpha. I think everybody knows that she was, if not the very worst, near the bottom. And crouching hard punch was a pretty good move, because it had the same effect that it does now, where it gets you in, but on hit it launched the opponent into a juggle state. Juggles were a much bigger part of the game in Alpha, and it was really a very, very good combo starter. You could do it pretty much whenever you wanted to. If you got, if you had a positive effect and got that combo, you could go into I want to call it V trigger, but that's not what they called it. But effectively it was V trigger, and right. You could do some pretty fun juggles off of that.
All right, kind of with that in mind, then, what is your favorite combo in any fighting game?
That's probably going to be in Street Fighter V. There are 2 desk combos that I've found particularly entertaining. One of them is again with Mika. This is with V Trigger 2, and it's a desk combo where he calls Nadeshiko, and he's able to get like 3 jabs in, and then she shows up with the chair, and then he's able to do more jabs, and then she comes with the chair again, and then there's more jabs, and it ends up being like 13 consecutive jabs. Just 13 straight crouching jabs with Nadeshiko. I think that's pretty funny. And there's another one that he does that is I think it's a Balrog combo, Balrog versus Urien, with Aegis Reflector, where he's able to just do it's a trade combo, and he's able to just do one punch after another, pound, each one bouncing off the Aegis Reflector, but then he recovers so quickly that he's able to just keep doing it until there's no more Aegis.
Yeah, no, I actually really like those like fun, which everyone should. Now that I think about it, is one of those things where I say to myself all the time, I should learn a combo that takes into account a Urian doing wake up Aegis Reflector that would trade with them, and then you can get multiple hits all at once. I keep saying to myself I should do that, but I never do. However, those sound like fun trolley combos posted by or preferred by the dude who dropped this trolley mod on the whole community. Thanks a lot, you fucking internet troll. That's quite fun. That's a fun answer. So thank you for that. It gives us a little perspective into the mind of someone who is mad enough to attempt to dive into the netcode here.
Yeah.
Well, much appreciated, my friend. And again, thank you very much for coming on the show. And again, wishing you a speedy recovery. Is there anything else you want to say before we shut the shades on this episode?
No. I think we pretty much have it all covered. I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for getting the word out. The more venues that people hear about the mod in, I think maybe the more people will be encouraged to give it a try. That's what I want. I want people to use it, at least for the hopefully Capcom comes out with a fix that comes along with the release of Seth and the official release of Champion Edition, and puts this all to bed. That's what I'm really hoping for. But in case they don't, we don't know how long we'll be stuck with these mods. Please give mine a shot. And if you didn't like it before, my apologies. I hear you, and I want to make it better for you. And if you do like it now, that's great. I'm happy to hear that. And I hope to just make it better in the future.
That's the dream. All right, folks, that'll do it for another episode of RSF Radio. Again, thank you very much to Fluffy Sheep for coming on the episode. Again, you can find me, Joe Monday, at Super Joe Monday, or at RedditSF on Twitter.com, or head on over to our Street Fighter. I'm Joe_Monday there. Whatever you post, I'll see it, like I saw this post, and which will be shared in the show notes. So if you're looking for a link to the mod, check down below or wherever the fuck show notes are. On whatever way you listen to this show, which there's a lot of fucking ways. Anyway, that's an episode. We'll see you next week on another edition of RSF Radio. But until then, take care, folks.